In the course of this presentation, I will apply a cultural safety perspective to a community project. I will describe the context of the setting and the dilemma facing the agencies and community. I will also discuss the concept of othering and how it relates to the situation and the impact of othering on services and communities. The context of the setting is a community development organisation operating in a small town in Ireland, trying to engage with hard-to-reach young people. A large amount of funding was allocated for the development of a youth service in an area identified as disadvantaged and in need of development and support. The project involved a multidisciplinary team approach. The dilemma in the situation was a disconnect between agencies and service users. This was made evident by a lack of uptake of service provision and the unwillingness of service users to engage with agencies to discuss development of the project. The agencies believed the community were at fault, and this can be viewed as othering. They believed that they had tried to implement many interventions, but the community remained non-engaged. The attitude of the agency was that the community were the problem and non-engagement was unrelated to them or the interventions they offered. The silence from the community was down to a lack of education on their part, which led to them not understanding why they needed the service. According to Riggins, othering refers to the labelling and degrading of cultures and groups outside of one's own. The agencies had othered the community and viewed them as the lesser. In this case, the practitioners set themselves apart from the young people by believing they were better than the young people as they were the experts. Edward Said believed that power was at the core of the I-other dialectic and was imposed through power structures. Bell Hooks said other is constructed through power relations governed through patriarchal structures to make the other powerless. In this instance, the community felt powerless in what the agencies were doing. Through non-engagement, the community threatened the practitioners' professional identity, which put their professional credibility at risk. In turn, the community felt the professionals were trying to repress their community identity by forcing a mainstream identity on them. The impact of othering left the project at an impasse, with neither group able to see the other's viewpoint. Cultural safety is respectful engagement that supports and protects many paths to well-being, and is an outcome measured by how respected and assisted the client feels in relation to having values, preferences and location taken into account. Culturally unsafe practice is identified by the client feeling uncertain and devalued and forced to avail of services outside of a familiar location. Applying a culturally safe perspective here is useful to explain what's happening. The community believed that the agencies were not listening to them. They knew they needed support, but they wanted to be involved in the process of deciding and designing the intervention in a meaningful way, not just tokenistic involvement. The agencies undervalued the community's ability to contribute to the project. The problem here was the practice used by the agencies was culturally unsafe. We know this by measuring what happened with the indicators of cultural unsafety, which are low utilisation of available service, which was non-engagement from the community, a denial of suggestion there is a problem as the agencies didn't believe they were at fault. Non-compliance with prescribed intervention, which was non-engagement. Reticence is in involvement with agencies, there was no trust in what the agencies were doing. Anger towards the agencies. Low self-worth as the community felt ignored, and cultural appropriateness of tools and interventions transported from dominant culture to minority culture. The 5 principles of cultural safety are process, positive purpose, partnership, personal knowledge and protocols. Because the practice initially used by the agencies was not culturally safe, the community practiced resistance through their silence and non-engagement, and this happens when a minority are not allowed to express their culture. To apply the principles of cultural safety to practice, we can do the following. Partnerships. Aim to collaborate with service users in order to problem solve and open dialogue with them, not just consultations. Appreciate and respect that they are the experts in their area and they know what will work and what won't work. Positive purpose. Build on the service user's strengths and use an asset-based model. Ensure that each step in the process leads towards a positive end result and avoid tokenistic gestures. Protocols. Examine cultural forms of engagement and ensure language and tools are appropriate for service users. Personal knowledge. Be mindful of your own cultural identity and how projecting your personal beliefs onto service users can alienate them. Be aware of power dynamics. Process. Ensure service users understand what you are trying to do and why. This should be communicated throughout the project and not just at the start, and include service users at every stage. Intercultural competence is a set of personal qualities, attitudes, skills, abilities, and knowledge that enable us to show empathy, display respect, perform role behaviours, be non-judgmental, be open, be tolerant of ambiguity, and interactively manage. The outcome of not employing a culturally safe practice would have resulted in the alienation of the community and loss of ability to flourish. For the agencies, they could potentially have damaged their own professional reputations by allowing the project to fail due to stereotyping the community and not practicing cultural safety. Using a culturally safe approach allowed the agencies to identify and understand the barriers to participation. This was done through respectful engagement with the community, which helped build good relationships between the agencies and the community, and this resulted in a beneficial project for all, which otherwise may not have happened. So to sum up, the awareness and use of intercultural practice perspective brought about the conditions to ensure this much needed project worked. It helped the agencies to see how stereotyping had alienated the community and led to resistance, but applying a culturally safe approach turned the situation around to everyone's benefit. The agencies learned that it was not enough to identify a problem and develop a solution. They learned that to be effective, they must take a strengths-based approach, which means looking at the problem from the client's point of view and identifying their strengths. By empowering them to be part of the solution, the efficacy of the solution is enhanced.